Om Sai Ram and a warm welcome to Shree Ram Vijay Granth lecture series, episode 5. We had concluded our last lecture with the point that all the gods and Brahma, they were afraid that now if Ram becomes the king of Ayodhya, what will be the fate of the rest of the story? So the Devatas were insecure that none of the things were going on according to their plan. Ram was incarnated in order to kill Ram, but that was not happening. So today let us see how Sri Ram went into Vanvas. This presentation is dedicated to Sri Baba, without whose grace and mercy, slightest of the endeavors are impossible. Today the world altogether is in a temporary distress situation. The world is suffering from the deadly COVID-19 virus. So let us, on this event, make some prayers on the lotus feet of Baba to save us from the deadly clutches of this virus, to save the entire earth. Let us make a mass prayer for all the people who have lost their near and dear ones. May Baba give them enough courage to face the situation, and may this pandemic end soon. And with this note, by bowing down to the Trinity and Sri Baba, let us begin with our today's portion. So, as we know that the Devatas were not satisfied with the sudden turn of events, that what was happening. So, let us see what Adhyay 13 contains. Viranchi, who is one of the gods, was sent to the holy abode of Ayodhya as a Vikalpa to go to Ayodhya and prejudice Kaikeyi and all the subjects of the king against Ram and put an obstacle in the performance of the ceremony of Sri Ram's coronation, so that the prince might go to the forest of the demons and kill them all. After all, that was the aim of Lord Ram's incarnation on earth, to kill the demons. So Vikalpa tried his utmost to prejudice them against Ram, but they were all so good and pious that they remained faithful to the prince. There was only one wicked woman, Manthara. So this Manthara was a favorite maidservant of Kaikeyi, whom he prejudiced against Ram. She hated the prince, and the Vikalpa was successful in poisoning Manthara's ears first. And with a view to deprive him of the throne of Ayodhya, she went into the room of Kaikeyi and, throwing herself on the ground, began to beat her chest with tears in her eyes. When Kaikeyi asked her what the cause of her grief was, Manthara replied, "You unfortunate woman, your husband is going to install Ram in the throne of Ayodhya, and as soon as he is placed on the throne, he will kill your both the sons. And I shall be very glad if your Bharat is installed in the throne." So she started speaking like this. So Kaikeyi, she said that I have no objection to the installation of Ram, whom I love as my son. So Kaikeyi said that I don't see any difference between my son and Ram. I love him equally. So Manthara now got exceedingly enraged and began to cry violently. Kaikeyi went to pacify her, to quiet her, when Vikalpa also began to prejudice her against Ram. Now Vikalpa came and joined. So this Vikalpa, as I have mentioned earlier, was sent by the Devatas to execute the plan of sending Ram to the forest of demons and killing all of them. And finally, the mission of Lord Ram was to kill Ravana. So, so now ultimately, after provoking so much, after talking and explaining so much, and poisoning Manthara's ears against Lord Ram, they finally saw a ray of hope. They succeeded. What happened? Manthara suddenly changed. So, seeing a sudden change in her mistress, this Manthara was now mightily pleased with her and kissed her. So now Kaikai said, "My dearest, just tell me what should I do to get rid of Ram?" "Anyhow," replied Manthara, "we must send him away and have our Bharat placed on the throne of Ayodhya. I therefore tell you with pleasure that if the king comes to see you, ask him to fulfill the promise given by him to you during the battle he had fought with you with the demons in the heaven. If you remember the promise given by him to you, then just go on. He promised you that he will give you whatever you would ask from him as a reward for helping him in the battle. So just move. You should. Therefore ask the king to send Ram to the forest of the demons for 14 years and place Bharat on the throne of Ayodhya. And another thing is that if the prince goes to the forest, the king will soon die of grief for his son." So see, you can execute the plan like this. You can just throw yourself in the ground. Whenever the king comes to see you, you just remind him of the promises that he gave to fulfill two boons which you would ask from him. If you remember, just go forward with your plan. So this is how Manthara, she directed Kaikeyi to execute her plan. So with this, we start with chapter 14 or Adhyay 14 of Shree Ram Vijay Granth. So till now we saw how Kaikeyi was influenced totally by Manthara's wicked thoughts of sending Ram to forest, and ultimately we know that this is all the part of the divine plan which has been ultimately set up. So in the 14th chapter, we see that Kaikeyi liked the advice of Manthara, and before the king came into her room at night, she had taken off her ornaments and thrown herself on the ground with her hair in disorder. Just look at the condition. Now she has begun to play a drama in order to convince the king or Maharaj Dashrath to send Ram to the forest. Now she started playing a drama. Her hairs were all like in disorder. It was unorganized totally. In the meantime, the king entered her room and asked her what the matter was. When she replied, "You wicked king, get out from here. I know your heart. You are going to banish my sons to a forest and give the kingdom to Ram, isn't it?" Dashrath replied, "What you say is untrue, because I love Bharat and Shatrughan as much as I love Ram and Lakshman." So now Kaikeyi said, "No, no, no, be gone. I do not want you in my room." The king felt bad when Kaikeyi spoke those words to him, and in order to pacify her, he asked her what she wanted from him. Kaikeyi replied, "The promise given to me by you during the battle with the demons must now be fulfilled. What I want from you is that you should banish Ram to the forest of the demons for 14 years and install my son Bharat in the throne of Ayodhya." The king was thunderstruck when Kaikeyi made the cruel demand and persuaded her much to ask him for something else. But she would not. change her mind at all. In the meanwhile, his faithful minister Sumatra came and informed the king, who was lying on the ground in disorder, that everything was ready for the not the thread ceremony, the coronation ceremony of Maharaj Ram, the would-be king of Ayodhya. When Dashrath told Sumatra what had happened in the room of Kaikeyi, the minister, being exceedingly sorry, went and called Ram in the room of Kaikeyi. The prince came and implored his father to tell him the cause of his grief. When Kaikeyi replied, "The king had given me a promise at the battle with the demons that he would give me whatever I would ask from him. I have asked him to fulfill that promise, and since then he has been very sorry." Ram said, "I think he is not able enough to comply with your demand." Kaikeyi replied, "So, should I consider that? I think so." "Well," said Lord Ram, "if my father cannot give you what you want from him, I promise to give it to you." Kaikeyi replied, "Then go to the forest of the demons for 14 years with Lakshman, and let my son Bharat rule in Ayodhya." Ram said, "Most willingly. I have no objection to do so. It is just the same thing to me because Bharat and I are one." So Lord Ram's prompt reply was that, "Okay, no problem. It is my duty to abide by your instructions, and I will have the least sorrow to go and spend my days in the forest. And after all, if Bharat rules the kingdom or I rule the kingdom, it's all the same. After all, he is my brother. I have no objection." So this is why Lord Ram is called Maryada Purushottam. He was totally perfect. He had no happiness for becoming the king, nor any sorrow for being sent to the exile. So Ram was utterly obedient. As and when Kaikeyi just instructed him, he bowed down his head in front of Kaikeyi and offered his obeisances to her, that your orders will be obeyed by me. So do not worry. I'll leave the kingdom. So this was the end of chapter 14. So with this, let us now begin with the last chapter for the day, which is the 15th Adhyay, or the chapter 15 of Ram Vijay Granth. In the beginning of this chapter, just let me show you these two beautiful pictures of Lord Rama's childhood. He is on the lap of Mata Kaushalya, his mother. The purpose behind putting these two lovely pictures in this particular scene or slide is that just to show the affection of Mata Kaushalya towards Ram when he was a small child. Because now the scene is turning. So let us imagine that we are right now in that place and the camera turns towards Mata Kaushalya's room, where now Shree Ram will go and give her this saddest news of her life, that she is going to lose her son, her beloved son, for 14 years. So in the chapter 15, Ram, then taking leave of Kaikeyi, went to his mother Kaushalya and told her what had happened. Kaushalya became very sorry and said, "You shall not leave me. Hide yourself in my room for 14 years, and I shall keep the secrecy. But I cannot remain without you." Yes, after all, it is so painful for a mother to part with her son, her beloved son, whom she loved the most. So Mata Kaushalya said that You hide yourself in my room. I'll say it to no one. I'll keep this a secret. But please don't leave me. I'll not be able to live without you. A life without you is impossible. So Ram replied, Mother, excuse me. I'm not I'm now bound by my promise to go to the forest. So saying, he threw himself at the feet of his mother and obtained her permission to go to the forest. Then he went to Lakshman and told him all that had taken place. When Lakshman said that I shall accompany you, I cannot live here without you, and if you leave me here alone and go to the forest, I shall commit suicide. So Lakshman's most beloved Ram was his everything, was his life. Lakshman could not imagine even a second of his life without Lord Ram. After all, he was the incarnation of Sri Adi Shesha. So Ram was of utter importance in Lakshman's life. Lakshman was a true, sincere devotee, a servant in the lotus feet of Sri Ram. Ram, having consented to take Lakshman with him, went to his wife Sita Mata and said, I am going to the forest of the demons for 14 years, and until I return to Ayodhya, I ask you to live with my mother, Kaushalya. I cannot take you with me to the forest, as you are delicate, and will not be able to bear the hardship with me. See, so staying in the forest is very hard. You will not be able to bear it. So I request you to stay with my mother. So with the word delicate, let me now share with you all a very wonderful pastime of Mata Sita's life during her marriage. When she was coming from Mithila to Ayodhya, obviously she came by a carriage. But during the Vidai, or Vidai means the ceremony during the marriage when the daughter leaves her maternal home and accompanies her husband to the husband's house. So it is that time of the marriage, basically. So during this Vidai, when Mata Sita was coming out of the palace till the carriage, that entire road was laid by the pollen grains of lotus. The devotees had spread lotus pollen grains for Mata Sita, who was the incarnation of Mahalakshmi Mata, to walk on it. Sita Mata was so delicate that after walking a few steps on those pollen grains of lotus, which should have been comfortable for her, she collapsed, she fainted. She was so delicate. But despite that, these are certain pastimes. But we know ultimately who was Mata Sita. She was Mahashakti, Ma Mahalakshmi. She came here to help Lord Ram in achieving his goal. And Sita Mata was a selfless devotee, a very responsible wife. During the Vanvas, if you just look at the order, uh, how they walked, in that order we see that Mata Sita walked at the in front. She led the entire both the males. So after Mata Sita walked Lord Ram, and behind that Lakshmanji. He used to protect both of them walking in front. But Mata Sita used to walk in front so that whichever calamity would befall must befall on her, not Sri Ram. She was such a sincere devotee of Lord Ram and such a beloved wife of Lord Ram. So with the word delicate, I was just reminded of this pastime. So as I have been giving such insights of Ramayana during my entire series, I thought of sharing this story as well. So without any further deviation from the topic, let us get back to the chapter, which is so. So these were the situations which happened. So Lakshman wanted to accompany him, and then when Ramji said to Sita that you don't need to go with me, What Sita Mata said? Sita Mata said, I shall follow you and share my misfortune that may befall you. I therefore go down on my knees and implore you not to leave me here alone. Whereupon Rama consulted Vasishtha, Guru Vasishtha, that whether it was fit to take Mata Sita to a dangerous forest of demons, whether it was right to take her. And then when Guru Vasishtha, he replied in the affirmative, so Ramji promised Sita that he would also take her with him. She was now eligible to accompany Lord Ram. Lastly, he went to take his leave of King Dashrath. When the king said with tears in his eyes, I feel much for thee. The wicked and wretched woman has done this all, and I do not think that I shall live until thou returnest to Ayodhya. So Maharaj Dashrath said that I don't think I will be able to survive, or you will be able to see me alive after you return from the exile of 14 years. I don't think so. Now let me just go back 2 episodes back, I guess. So let us just go back to rewind and just think of that situation when Shravan Kumar accidentally died from an arrow shot from King Dashrath's bow. And in that situation, Shravan Kumar's parents, who were devotees, had cursed King Dashratha that he would also die in grief of losing his son. So now these things were all pre-planned. Everything was going on according to the divine plans of the lordships, according to the curse, this cursing of Shravan Kumar's parents, this going of Lord Ram to the Vanvas, everything was a part of the divine plan. And everything was happening according to it. So this was the scene right now. So King Dashratha, he blamed Kaikeyi. He held Kaikeyi responsible for the situation that arose. And he said that I will die in grief of you. And yes, exactly this was the curse that Shravan Kumar's parents gave. That you will also die because you will lose your beloved son for 14, you will die in grief of your beloved son. That was the curse that was given. So, as I cannot tell you to break the promise given by you to Kaikeyi, said Dashrath, I give you my consent to go to the forest, of course, but please, child, take with you all the necessary things that you require and pass your days in happiness. So King Dashrath said that, see, my kingdom is full of wealth, filled with riches. You may take anything you want, so that you are able to pass your 14 years in the forest happily. There must be no problem. Father, replied Lord Ram, I do not want anything. I shall rest myself in Valkalyas. Valkalyas means the barks of a tree, and pass my day in meditation. So Sri Ram said that I shall adorn myself with tree barks and pass my days in meditation. All the 14 years which I will stay in the forest, I will spend in meditation. And I'll wear in person those tree barks. I don't require any sort of riches or wealth. As soon as Ram spoke these words, Kaikeyi brought Valkalyas and placed them before Ram, Sita, and Lakshman. So Kaikeyi was just waiting for an opportunity. She was standing over there. She just brought and placed it in front of them. Go wear it and just vacate the kingdom as soon as possible. So this was Kaikeyi's mentality. She was totally, her ears were poisoned by those provocations of Mantra. So Ram, Lakshman, and Sita dressed themselves in these Valkalyas or tree barks and set out for the forest with Minister Sumant. With this, we conclude chapter 15 of the Ram Vijay Granth. Let us see in the next episode what happens after Ram, Lakshman, and Sita, accompanied by Suman, went out for the exile or Vanvas. What were the following events that happened? With this note, let us end our episode here. I thank all the devotees for watching this video with patience. And as we know that the world is suffering from the deadly COVID-19, we trust that Sri Ram, who has incarnated himself in this Kali Yuga as Sri Sainath Maharaj, will definitely bless us. And we will be able to overcome this distress very soon, today or tomorrow. Humanity will win, human beings will win, the entire world, the devotees, everyone will win. And all of you are requested to take the safety measures. Stay safe, take care, stay healthy, and most importantly, stay blessed. So, it was a great opportunity to be in association with sincere devotees like you all who watch these videos from beginning till the end and get the benefits of hearing Ram Katha. May Shri Baba bless you all with his kind, loving, boon bestowing hand, and may this world get rid of this deadly virus very soon. Thank you so much. Om Sai Ram.